you've been. I'll talk about Naujaat a little bit. Just want to point out our exploration stage projects that are listed there, and the fact that we've been finding kimberlite on these properties, so we're pretty good at it. We do plan to continue to evaluate these properties. Our goal is to do it with funds that we can acquire in non-dilutive ways. An example of that, we had a news release yesterday where we sold a royalty on our Loki project in the Lac de Gras region, which will allow us to have funding to get there and to do some ground geophysics and continue to move that project along. But that'll be a key part for us, is to be able to bring in money in a non-dilutive manner to help us push those forward. We have a legacy gold project up at Hope Bay, immediately along strike from Agnico Eagle's Doris Gold Mine. We are working to get a partner involved to see exploration happening on that property in 2023. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we picked up our DeStaffany lithium project in the NWT, and then a Bathurst Inlet project in Newfoundland. So DeStaffany is an area that we acquired late last year. We announced the acquisition in January. It's about 115 kilometers to the east of Yellowknife. This is an area we explored before, right by the turn of the century. In 1998-99, we explored this property for tantalum in a predecessor company called Naujaat. So we were aware of it. We saw what was happening in the lithium space, and in particular around some of the spodumene pegmatites in the Yellowknife Province. And so we decided to acquire it. The other thing I would just point out is that DeStaffany is less than 20 kilometers away from the Naujaat rare earth mine. That deposit was the first discovery that was made by our chairman, Brent Thomas, in the 1970s in his company Highwood. So we've been exploring in this region for a long time, and we understand the area very well. Key thing about DeStaffany is it's right on the north shore of Great Slave Lake, so in an area where infrastructure can be a challenge, being right on water is an important benefit, we think, for that project going forward. Key thing we want to do in acquiring the property, we know there are 2 spodumene pegmatites on the project in the area, at least 1 and at least 2. With our work in tantalum in the late 90s, we did identify a couple of other pegmatites in the region, so we think there is an opportunity to make prospecting discoveries relatively quickly as soon as the snow melts. But our goal is going to be to evaluate the 2 known pegmatites. They both do host spodumene mineralization with pretty typical grades for Archean spodumene pegmatites. They've never been drilled. Moose 1 in particular doesn't have a lot of tantalite or columbite mineralization, so in the earlier work when these were first found, there wasn't a whole lot done with it. But there is a nice channel sample from 2009 or 2010 at 1.5% over 7.5 meters. Moose 2, just over to the east, had seen more work. A bulk sampling program and pilot plant were in place in the 40s and 50s, creating a tantalum, niobium, and a little bit of tin concentrates. So there is all those elements can provide value added for this deposit. But our goal here is to get on the property. We'll map it. We can do some more channel sampling, leading to drilling later in the year once permits are in place. And the idea is going to be to try and just define a resource as quickly as we can, something that could produce a saleable spodumene concentrate. We think that speed is going to be really important with this rush and this sort of interest in lithium. And being located right on the shore of Great Slave Lake, we think is a real advantage. It'll allow us to access market if we can come up with a resource like that. Being on Great Slave Lake in many ways is like being on tidewater in more remote areas in the Arctic, and that's been sort of the strategy with the acquisition of our second lithium property on Bathurst Inlet. There's a series of pegmatites on the east shore of Bathurst Inlet that have been known and mapped decades ago. They've never been evaluated for their spodumene or their lithium content. There are some other lithium-bearing pegmatites in this region, especially over to the west side of Bathurst Inlet. It is remote, but there is infrastructure coming, in particular pointing out Sabina Gold and Silver's port facility that's being used to service the development of their mine in the Back River area. So once the snow melt is gone, the goal here is simply going to be to get up and stand on these pegmatites and see if they are evolved enough and if they have potential and if they actually do host spodumene. So very green fields, absolutely early stage grassroots exploration, but the kind of thing that we can do pretty quickly. What is pushing sort of this diversification for us is obviously the market is rewarding pretty high valuations to some companies that are exploring for lithium, and this is an opportunity for us to get into a space that we know we have been in before, and we could see opportunities to do that. These comparables are all companies that none of them have resources. They're all looking for spodumene pegmatites. Obviously, some of the higher valuations are being awarded to companies that have been dedicated and set up to explore for lithium. There are some other good examples like Gamma, I would point out, as a company that has a couple of other projects with other commodities, and then they've acquired spodumene pegmatite in the Yellowknife belt, and their market cap is about 5 times ours right now. This is brand new for us. We're just sort of call it our coming out. Part of what that's driving this interest, of course, is a supply-demand gap that's coming in the lithium space. I think the simplest way to characterize it is by 2030, if every lithium project that's on the drawing board gets into production, which is something we know never happens, we still have about a 10% supply gap in 2030 for what the world is going to need. Dean kind of touched on this on the diamond side. For those of us that have been in it, there's been a supply-demand gap happening in diamonds for about the last decade or so we've been talking about, and I think, interestingly, we're there right now. It's happening. Global supply is off over 20% since it peaked in 2017, and there's no large diamond projects on the drawing board to go into production and try and replace any of that lost production. And on the demand side, in particular, looking at the US jewelry sales coming out of COVID have been incredibly strong. This is 50 years of US jewelry sales, and the last 2 years have been 50% above the long-term trend and holding steady. So there's clearly value in diamond deposits. When that's going to churn, we don't know, but having a deposit like our Naujaat project, is over 20 million carats of diamonds, high value, very rare colored fancy diamonds. This is an asset that's worth holding on to. One of the things we haven't done a lot as a company to pat ourselves on the back is our exploration at Naujaat. We basically work from the community. This is the deposit we can see in the foreground here in our bulk sample pits. The background up at the top of this photo is the community of Naujaat where we work. And twice now over the last 5 years at the Nunavut Mining Symposium, North Arrow's been recognized with the corporate award that recognizes exploration companies helping with the economic and social development of communities. There's a lot of really good, much bigger companies working in Nunavut, and I think we're very proud of having been recognized twice now in the last 5 years, and I think it's a testament to how we conduct our business, and it's the same approach that we're going to be taking to our lithium projects, as well as our other diamond projects as we continue to move them along. Loki is this is the project that we sold the royalty on. Just really want to touch on really quickly. We're using deep machine learning to come up with new targets and define new targets for this project. It's the same platform that was used and applied at the Ekati mine last year that led to the discovery of 2 new kimberlites, including the biggest kimberlite found at Ekati in the last 20 years. So Ekati was the first diamond mine in Canada, absolutely a brownfields, well-explored area, and the new discovery was made. So that's North Arrow, we're booth 2707. Please come by if you want to take a look at some of the diamonds and talk a little bit more about us. But we have strong background giving exposure to lithium, as well as to the upside that is going to come in diamonds sometime soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr.